Caleb. It's coming down in 3, 2. Welcome back as we broadcast live from SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas. Brought to you by our good friends at WorkTrucksLLC.com. If you're a contractor, WorkTrucks with an X, LLC.com, and VolAuto.com. That's where the Vol shop. That's where you should shop as well. Volunteer Automotive Group. Matt Moscona joins us now. Did I do okay on the name, Matt?
Nailed it.
Sweet.
My boy Dave.
Matt is with basically ESPN every city in Louisiana.
Pretty much, yeah.
You're getting ready to pick another one up. I can tell by the look on your face.
No, I was just thinking, I think there's maybe an ESPN affiliate up somewhere in North Louisiana that hasn't picked me up yet, but in due time, yeah.
I think you have some of the best opinions and takes in the entire SEC. So I want to get kind of a big picture thought. Of course, you cover LSU primarily, and we'll discuss them. But LSU, I believe, is one of those teams that is on an upper tier that can win the championship. Which teams would you have on that tier, and would you have LSU on this tier?
So I think let's start with the easy ones. Georgia and Texas, I think everyone starts there. I think Georgia's still the most talented team in college football, and they've earned the benefit of the doubt. Texas was a playoff team a year ago. They returned everybody. They've added some really nice pieces via the portal. Of course, Isaiah Bond will be a nice target for Quinn Ewers, and I think their schedule, it's almost if you haven't looked at it, it's almost like the SEC schedule makers went to Texas and said, here, pick your schedule. What would you like to play this year? Because it is a path paved in gold. So I would be very surprised if those two are not in a playoff. After that, I think there's a group of 5 teams. It's Alabama and LSU and Ole Miss and Missouri and Tennessee, and I think I did that alphabetically. Because Ole Miss, Mississippi, not O. But anyway.
Yeah, I got it. I was a writer back in the day.
So there you go. With that group, Dave, I always look at, okay, who has the fewest questions against the most manageable schedule? That's just my sort of gauge that I use at the beginning of a season. And Ole Miss, by far, has the most manageable schedule of that group we talked about, and they return a ton of talent. They went ham in the portal. So I think my top 3 in the league are Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss. I just think LSU is interesting because of the 3 letters and the brand they built, and a lot of people consider LSU an elite team. But, man, you lost a ton on offense, and the defense was quite literally the worst defense in the history of the program last year. So you got to be better. How much better can they be? I don't know the answer to that. If they figure that out, they figure out defense, yeah, LSU can be a 10-win team and can be in a 12-team playoff. It's a big if.
Well, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you like the Brian Kelly hire when it was made,
Love
right?
it, yes. Still do.
Okay, so you still like it. How about the fans? Have they pulled back at all, or is the honeymoon period still ongoing?
I don't know that there's really a honeymoon in Baton Rouge. They expect you to win. It's just LSU's become accustomed to it. The problem LSU's had, since 2003, the only program that has won more national championships than LSU is Alabama. LSU's won 3 and played for a 4th. So they've had immense success at the highest level. LSU hasn't been able to avoid the lulls. Ed Ogeron's last 2 seasons, they were 5-5 and then 6-7. Les Miles had a 4-loss season or 5-loss season in 2008. Those are the things that they haven't been able to always avoid in the dips. So the expectations are always high, but realistically, you also have to understand that LSU, about once every 5th year, has that kaboom. But everything else feels like it's that perpetual 9-3, 8-4, and then you're waiting for the boom. I think the big boom could come in 2025, the 2025 season for LSU. If Garrett Nussmeier comes back for a 5th season and a lot of that stuff's in place. I'm not sure that I think this 2024 team is the championship team. But for Brian Kelly, people are still excited about it. He's reinvigorated culture around that program and stability, and there's expectation, and they've recruited well. So, yes, I think people are still very, very happy with Brian Kelly.
The state is pretty easy to recruit well, though. Do you like how he's locked down those borders?
His biggest – if I were to say Brian Kelly had 2 big mistakes when he was hired. One was he didn't retain Corey Raymond on staff, who was the defensive backs coach who built DBU, was a great recruiter. There were a couple of other staff hires that I could look at and said that was a mistake. The other, while Brian Kelly came to Baton Rouge, I think he knew he was going to have to prioritize Louisiana. I still don't think he realized how much you had to prioritize it. In his first class at LSU, I believe there were like 13 states represented in the recruiting class. I mean, the LSU got on a plane and signed a 3-star cornerback out of Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. Like, I could throw a rock from my house and hit a 3-star cornerback. It's just there's no reason to leave the state for things like that. And then you're also going to end up getting guys from Louisiana who grew up wanted to give an arm to play in that stadium and wear that uniform. So I think it took 2 cycles for him to really understand it, but now he's locked in on it. He's made up his staff of coaches that know the state of Louisiana, that have recruiting inroads, and 25 and 26 are bumper crop classes in the state. That I think will be the 2 classes that shape LSU's next championship team.
Do you think SEC schools in general, and the fact that Louisiana is contiguous to Texas, do you think SEC schools will try to recruit Texas more and more and more now that they have a footprint?
I think everybody tries to recruit Texas no matter what. I think it's just a matter of, because there's so many players, even though there's a bunch of schools in Texas, they can't take everybody. So you're going to cherry pick at times and get the right players. So I don't know that we're going to see any more recruiting in Texas than we already have. Maybe it makes more inroads as some of the talent becomes more familiar with some of the SEC schools. But, I mean, I still think you're going to see all the neighboring and bordering schools go into Texas. I mean, Houston and East Texas is so big for LSU, Dave. I mean, it's the amount of players they've gone in from Grant Delpit and Caleb on Chasson, those guys over the years, Jamal Adams out of Dallas. I mean, LSU has always gone into those areas to get players, and they'll continue to do so.
Great stuff. Matt Moscona, as he
Oh,
is.
so close. You had it right the first time.
Matt Moscona.
No.
Matt Scone.
Scone.
Matt Moscona.
There it is. You nailed it the first
Matt
time,
Moscona.
and then the vowels get everybody, man. There's so many vowels.
You should just have like a last name after a prostitute. That's what you should do, like Hooker. It's very easy.
That is easy.
This
This is Dave Hoker. It's my pleasure to be on your
show. He's Matt. I'm Dave. Have a fantastic day, everyone. We'll be right back from SEC Media Days.
So, do you think, like Matt, that LSU is a year away, Caleb?
No, but I don't think that means they'll win a national title this year. I think LSU is. They should be like Alabama and Georgia, Dave, where they're perpetually there. Like, and what I mean by that is like they're upset when they don't win the national championship. You know what I mean? And he brought up
to me, entering any year. Well, you do lose a Heisman. Now, okay, in all fairness, nobody went into 1998 after Tennessee lost Peyton Manning and said that they were going to win a championship. As a matter of fact, I think they were 13th maybe in the nation. So, LSU just lost a Heisman winner. Maybe there's reason to pump the brakes a little bit in Baton Rouge. Red stick.
Did Alabama not expect to win the national title after they lost Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, or Devontae Adams? I mean, it's LSU is at that level, and look, he brought up how they haven't been able to avoid the loss. Funny enough, outside of Alabama, is there anybody's resume in the 21st century outside? Is there any program you would have rather been football-wise outside of LSU? If you could be a fan of any team outside of Alabama since the start of the 21st century, you pick LSU. And
yes,
I think easily. What's kind of interesting about this whole thing is the whole reason they couldn't avoid the loss was, well, let's talk about who they had as head coach those 2 times. The fact that they won national titles with Les Miles and Ed Orgeron means that they're immune to incompetence in a certain way because there's so much talent in the area. I think Brian Kelly's in a similar situation to Lincoln Riley, Dave, at USC, which is both of them had great first years in 2022 at their respective schools. A lot of hype entering last year. Now, Brian Kelly's not as reviled at this point as Lincoln Riley, because Lincoln Riley I don't know how you can go this long and be that bad on defense as a head coach. But I think that
I really don't either. And can I share a quick story that's kind of out of left field?
Sure.
So I was standing next to, I can't even remember who it was now all of a sudden, but I was standing next to somebody and Josh Heupel said, now don't paint me as an offensive coach. Now, I thought that was very insightful. He doesn't want to be painted as Lincoln Riley. And don't think that Lincoln Riley's resume wasn't in his mind when he came up with that concept of, I don't want to be known as an offensive coach. He's still known as an offensive coach until his defense is above average, until it is maybe even elite or wins a championship. But I found that very interesting that he made sure to say that. And I bet he said it more than once, that I heard it one time.
Well, I think he actually pays attention to Lincoln Riley because, let's be honest, Lincoln Riley's whole career trajectory comes from him replacing Josh Heupel after Heupel was fired at Oklahoma. And I think Josh Heupel has a bit of a personal vendetta, not against Lincoln Riley, but, kind of Michael Jordan level, taking that personally. So, yeah, I think that, okay, we look at a Josh Heupel having a drop-off after 2022. Okay, he inherited such a mess in 2021. He's already got the program rolling. You look at a Lincoln Riley or Brian Kelly, neither one of them inherited near the same mess that Josh Heupel inherited. And they both had splash first years, just missing the playoff. There is no reason they shouldn't have been better last year, both of them, and they both got worse. And I think people are kind of wondering, look, LSU opened the checkbook for Brian Kelly. LSU thought what I thought, which is if we had some sort of a competent coach, we could have a dynasty like Alabama because of how much talent we have down here. I think they thought they were getting a Saban situation with Brian Kelly because of how loaded that state and talent is. And I know they had Nick Saban in the early 2000s, but that wasn't LSU of LSU now. The facilities weren't the stuff. You can look at the whole research on that, Dave. You know about it. LSU had practiced on high school stadiums before Nick Saban took over there in 2000 because their facilities were so darn bad. So it was a little bit different. Different LSU program now. There was no excuse. Yeah, no excuse for them not to have a Saban smart level dynasty. And I think that they thought that's what they could get, and they're already upset that they haven't gotten it yet.